All right, DJ Shockley, former Georgia great, with us now. You see him now on Fox 5 Atlanta. He'll be on the sidelines there with the Georgia broadcast in Bryant-Denny Stadium Saturday night. What is up, DJ? How are you today?
Well, it's good to see you again. I appreciate you guys having me. First off, the setup you guys got is dope. I love it. I mean, come on. Can I get that in my basement? Can I get that in my man cave? I mean, you guys got a nice setup over there.
5 TVs right here, too. You can watch all the games. 5 TVs in front of us, yeah.
You guys are doing it big over there. I like it.
Last setup you were with, we were asking you to throw a hacky sack in a bucket.
Yeah. So, that was after you threw Petrino under a bus.
That was terrible, too. I can't believe I hit nothing. It was bad.
You still won the Roback gift card, though. You got $500 in Roback. That's right.
Yeah. Sometimes you're winning life.
We built all this on Nick Saban money now, so we need a
lot of people have done that.
We got another wing we want to build out of this thing, another studio. We need Kalen DeBoer to win a big one on Saturday.
Well, obviously Kirby Smart has built a program based on a lot of things that he learned from the greatest to ever do it, Nick Saban. But now Kirby comes in 1-5 against Alabama, against Nick Saban. And we were talking about who this game is more important for. It's obviously important for both programs, both head coaches. It just feels like it's a little more important for Kirby based on the fact that he's 1-5 against Alabama. Is that fair?
Oh, no doubt about it. And I think it's one of those games where it's a must-win because I look at it like you just mentioned, 1-5 versus Saban. But then if you lose on Saturday, it looks like you have a quote-unquote Alabama problem because I think Kirby hasn't lost to another Power 5 head coach, in, I don't know, 5-6 years or whatever it is. And if you go on the road and you lose in Tuscaloosa, it says, what's the deal with Alabama? And the last couple of years, you've had opportunities. You've had the best team on paper and coming into that game, especially in the SEC Championship game, people thought, hey, this is the time that Georgia is a lot better. They should go and beat Alabama, but somehow, some way, they find a way to get a win. So Saturday is ultra important for Kirby, for this program, because at the end of the day, Jalen Milroe said it doesn't matter, what their record is, who they are. We still see them as Georgia, kind of the little brother, and we're always beating them. And until Georgia can beat them and do it consistently, it's hard to say they're not lying.
Boy, by the time this game gets here, y'all gonna have Jalen talking about their mother and everything. There's Jalen Milroe quotes coming out of everywhere. Receipts on Jalen Milroe.
You don't think Kirby's gonna do that?
I mean, my goodness, Kirby used to tell us he never listened to the show, and now it's everything. Who's the playmaker, man? Who's helping Carson Beck out in this game? I don't care about the Kentucky game. I know what that game's like every time you guys are in Lexington. Who's the playmaker that's going to make the big play for Carson Beck in Bryant-Denny Stadium?
That's a good question because throughout the first 3 games, they've had a kind of different set of characters make plays. And I remember in their second game, they had 15 different guys catch a pass. ETN's first game back. It's been a collection of guys, especially on the outside. In the red zone, it's been more of Kobe Young, the transfer out of Miami. He's a big 6'4" receiver versus Clemson, Landon Humphreys, who, came over from Vanderbilt, a guy who has lots of speed, caught an in cut and went to the house versus Clemson. Dylan Bell is still there, a guy who they love to get the ball to him in space. Dom Lovett is another guy that I think Carson really leans on, especially on third down. He's one of those reliable guys in the slot. He can play outside. But, fellas, I think in this game, it has to be the run game. It has to be ETN. He has to be the difference maker in this game, whether it's running the rock or coming out of the backfield. Georgia's, they haven't really done what they have been in the past when it comes to running the football. And Kirby always prided himself on being a more physical team. I talked to him on Monday, and he said, you know what, Shock, when we look over there, on that other side of the line of scrimmage, they're going to look like us. They're going to have the same skill guys as us. They're going to be just as fast as us, just as physical as us. So what's going to be the difference? And I think being able to run the rock is going to be a big thing because Carson wants to be able to play action. They want to be able to take shots. But if you can't run the rock, it's going to be hard to do that. So I think ETN has to have a monster game, and I think he has to touch it at least 15 times in this game, whether it's running or out the backfield, for Georgia's offense to have some success. Because if you come one-dimensional, they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to come after you.
DJ Shockley is with us, the Georgia great, Fox 5 and Falcons great, Fox 5 Atlanta.
You're so kind right there.
I know.
Great.
We love you, DJ.
I appreciate it.
At DJ Shockley 3 on social media is where you follow him. As you stood on the sidelines in Kroger Field and you watched that game unfold, you got to the end of it, Georgia had won. What was the most concerning most concerning thing coming out of that game for you that you'll watch Saturday in Tuscaloosa and say, okay, let's see if they fix that showed its head against Kentucky?
You know what? I'll be honest. There were a couple of things. I thought at the line of scrimmage, they didn't dominate as much as you thought they would. On both sides of the line of scrimmage. You obviously didn't run the football like you wanted to. Georgia had 63 yards of offense in the first half. I mean, that means nothing was going right for them. And then on the defensive side, I think it has to be the ability for them to run the football, but also Brock Vandagriff got out and made some big-time runs in that ballgame. He had a couple 3rd and 8+ runs in the ballgame that gave them key first downs. And Brock is a premier runner, but he is nothing to what Jalen Miro is. And if you allow him to get out in space, he's going to turn an 8-10-yard run into 60. So I think that's the one thing that was concerning was the ability for the quarterback to be able to get out and make plays. There were times where Georgia brought pressure on Vandagriff, and he still was able to find an alley and get out and make some plays. That's what's going to be, I think, the difference in this ball game is how Kirby goes about attacking that Alabama offense. Because in the SEC championship game, they kind of sat back and allowed Milroe to decipher what he wanted to see. Then he could throw it or he could run it, and that didn't work out well for you. And you look at maybe the Michigan game where they came after him a little bit and had more success. So I think it has to be a combination of both. You got to have eyes on him, but you also have to pick your battles as far as your rush lane goes. But Georgia offensively didn't run it the way they wanted to in the first half. They weren't good on 3rd down. And I think that's going to be probably the most pivotal thing for this offense is how do you fail on 3rd down? They're 74th in the country right now on 3rd down conversions. That's not going to win a lot of ball games for you, especially when you go to Tuscaloosa on the road. 1st and 2nd down has to be huge. How you go about that, getting it done, is going to be a big part of this ballgame.
DJ, the last time we saw you in person, Dallas SEC Media Days, and one of the big talking points was the schedules of Florida and Oklahoma. And nobody was talking about this Georgia schedule because it is Georgia. And I know Georgia has not lost a regular season game since the cocktail party in 2020. But now, how big of a conversation point has this turned after the struggle in Lexington? Because not only, obviously, this game Saturday night in Tuscaloosa, got to go to Austin, got to go to Oxford, still got Tennessee.
I mean, it's a monster topic. I mean, I asked Kirby about it at the beginning of the year, and I point blank asked him, do you go about how you practice differently? How do you go about getting these guys prepared every week? Because it's going to be a gauntlet. And he was honest about it, saying, yeah, I don't know who scheduled this, but obviously they were not a fan of the Bulldogs because they gave us a hectic schedule. But Kirby does such a good job, though, of kind of compartmentalizing everything and processing it in a one game. And we hear it all the time. Let's go 1-0. Let's focus on this week. And Kirby, I think, has done the best job of doing that. But it's hard for these kids to not look at, okay, we're going to go play Alabama. Then a couple weeks, we got to go to Austin. Then we got to go to Ole Miss, got Tennessee. Like you guys mentioned, it's a gauntlet of a schedule. And it's already kind of showing its teeth as they've lost a couple guys already early in the season that are key contributors, like a Tate Ralledge on an offensive line who's played a bunch of ball for him, or a Michael Williams who went down a couple games ago. They're hoping to get him back this week. But you're talking about just being able to survive. And each and every week, every team's going to bring their best. And everybody wants to knock off the big dog that's at the top, and you're going to bring your best just like Kentucky did. So the conversation has been there. I think Georgia understands it. But the best thing for them to do is worry about what's going on week to week, and then you got to worry about what's happening the following week.
Listen, Carson Beck waited for his time, and then he didn't go to the NFL this year because he wanted to play for a championship, wants to try to win a national championship. You're known for waiting for your starting time at Georgia. I mean, you're such a team guy that you passed and you waited and you waited and you waited. Would that have been harder for you, and if it was the NIL days back in the day, for you to have waited for your time at Georgia as much as you loved that school? Would you have been tempted to bounce somewhere else?
That's a great question, because me sitting here now thinking about me at 21 and a school saying, hey, Shock, we got $500,000 for you. That's tough to say. You know what? I really love this school, but 500,000 is 500,000. I think it's harder for these kids to kind of make those decisions. And it's funny you asked that. I was just sitting with Carson just Monday. I was watching some tape with him on Alabama, and we were talking about the process of leaving and all that kind of stuff, because he was once committed to Alabama. And, we were talking about that process of, how we went through it. And he was like, man, I'll be honest, it's hard to leave this place. Jamon Dumas Johnson, who plays at Kentucky, talking to him when Georgia played him, and he was like, man, it's just different. The way Georgia goes about everything is just isn't the same. And Kirby says that at the end of every year, there are going to be people who can go in the portal, people who can leave, but just know they don't do it like we do it. And I think that's part of the process, is trying to understand what's the best place for you. Where can you succeed the most? And if you're in a position like Carson Beck where you don't play till your 4th and 5th year, then sometimes it may work out better for you, because coming into this season, you're going to play with so much talent. You're going to have opportunity to play on the biggest stages, and you're going to be put in positions to say, hey, I came from a university like D'Amico Ryans, who said, hey, when you ever get a Georgia kid, you know you're going to get a pro-ready guy. So I think it's a tough pill. It's one of those ones where I don't know what I would have done at that time. Kind of hard to say because we had success when I stayed. But these kids have a lot of opportunities. They have a lot of options. And Georgia is one of the premier places, and they do set you up for success once you leave. But it's hard to turn down that money, I know.
So if Carson Beck had gone to Alabama, you believe, right, Carson would be starting over Jalen right now? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, wow.
That's how you're going to do me. You're going to put that out there like
really.
that?
Well, I mean, my gosh, she was so nice.
I mean,
with
you guys have Jalen saying all this stuff. I'm just trying to get a little. I see the headlines. DJ Shockley says Carson Beck would start over Milroe. Both were at Alabama.
Yeah, you know the headlines.
Hey, I'll back you on this.
I don't know. I mean, Saban might still be there. Who knows? I mean, so many things could play out, man, through that time.
Wait,
Obviously,
Saban may
Milroe
still
is
be
one of the
there?
top players.
Are you Saban? So Jalen Milroe got Saban to retire? Is that what you were saying?
Come on, that away.
College football got Saban retired.
Hey, before we let you roll, just talking about the NIL, I mean, to me, it's like the biggest story to date. Matthew Slucka shutting it down after 4 games at UNLV. I don't know how deep of a dive you've taken into this, but, this is a legitimate Group 5 contender to get an automatic bid. And now 4 games in, he's saying the NIL, what they promised, wasn't there. He hasn't gotten it. I'm sure UNLV is going to come with a different story. I think they already have. Dunaway, I think, brought that up.
Oh, it's going back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. I mean, it's a terrible look on both sides. But from a former player's perspective, how do you play 4 games with your teammates? You guys have fought together. You've got wins over Houston and Kansas out of the Big 12. You've got an opportunity to do something really special, and you're shutting it down based on money. I know he's got to do what's right for him and his family, but this is just a bad look on both sides.
Yeah, that's the thing I disagree on. And that's one thing that I will always go to bat for, is the guys that you sweating and you go to war with. And I'll be honest, you have all the stuff you do from January all the way up until the season, and you build that chemistry, you build that camaraderie with your guys, and basically you saying, I love money more than I love my teammates who I have put so much into. And for me, I look at it in a different light of, hey, if I want to go to the next level, if I want to be the best player and person I want to be, when I get to the next level, do you think coaches, GMs, they're going to look back and say, you know what? If it comes down to money, I know this guy is not going to be all about the team. So why would I give him the money to play for a team? So I disagree with him, doing that. I just think it shows just a lack of character from him of, hey, I got to go out and I got to play with my guys. Regardless of what's going on the outside, that's going to be handled. But I don't think the money situation is the end-all, be-all. Now, a lot of guys may feel like, you never know, maybe he needs it for his family. You never know the scenarios that may be going on behind the scenes. But if it doesn't have to do with that, I think it all comes back to the team. And I think that's what, going back to Kirby, that's one thing that he always mentioned is, I want a guy who wants to come here and play. It's not all about the money, because at the end of the day, the money it'll come and go. And Georgia just passed a law where the school can start paying the kids straightforward. So I hear it all over football. It's going on. I mean, Jaden Rashada, who's at Georgia right now, was having the same issues with Florida, and he's suing Billy Napier in Florida. So I think it's going to be an issue. We knew when NIL came about, the parameters around it was very strange, and it was going to be a lot of questions here and there. I think it's going to continue. But ultimately, I think when you get into a position where you're already playing, you've dedicated yourself to this team, and this team needs you, and you don't show up, that's not a good look.
All right, he is DJ Shockley at DJ Shockley 3 on social media. See him on Fox 5 in Atlanta, Georgia's sidelines there. He stays busy this time of year. DJ, we appreciate the time, my man. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Fellas, you guys are the best. Appreciate you having me.
All right, man. Thank you. Take care. DJ Shockley with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.